Once upon a time, in a lively little town filled with merchants, travelers, and storytellers, there lived a man who was known for his big words and even bigger stories. He was not a king, nor a warrior, nor a scholar. Yet, if you listened to him talk, you'd think he was all three, and more. He had a way of turning ordinary things into extraordinary tales. If he had once lifted a basket of fruit, he would claim it was as heavy as a mountain. If he had seen a passing storm, he would say it nearly blew him into the next kingdom. And oh, if he had owned a simple horse, he would have you believe it was faster than the wind itself. But of all his stories, there was one that he told over and over again, his legendary ox.
"Ah, my ox,"
he would say, standing proudly in the middle of the village square, gathering a small crowd around him.
"You have never seen an ox like mine. Stronger than 10 men. Bigger than any beast you've ever laid eyes on. Why, if it took a step, the ground would tremble beneath its mighty hooves."
The villagers would listen, some nodding politely, others smirking behind their hands. Some had heard the story so many times that they could recite it themselves. One day, a curious traveler passed through the village. He had heard of this man and his magnificent ox. Amused, he asked,
"Tell me, where is this great ox of yours? I would love to see such a mighty creature with my own eyes."
The man hesitated for a moment, but then, with his usual confidence, he waved his hand.
"Oh, it's outside the village, grazing in the fields. You wouldn't believe how much it eats. If I brought it here, there wouldn't be a single blade of grass left in town."
The traveler smiled.
"Then let us go to the fields. I would love to see it."
Now, the villagers, who had always suspected something wasn't quite right about these stories, were eager to see what would happen next. So they all followed the boastful man out of the village and toward the fields where his legendary ox supposedly lived. They walked and walked, past the wells, past the farms, past the grazing sheep, but no ox. Finally, they reached a small patch of land at the edge of the village, where a single, thin, frail ox stood, lazily chewing on some grass. The traveler raised an eyebrow.
"Is this the ox you spoke of?"
The man's face turned red. He cleared his throat.
"Ah. Well, my ox must not be feeling well today. Usually, it is much bigger. And stronger. And—"
But before he could continue, the villagers burst into laughter. Some shook their heads, others patted him on the back. One of them chuckled.
"Perhaps next time, friend, let your ox speak for itself."
How often do we see people who speak grand words, but when the time comes, their actions tell a different story? It's easy to talk. It's easy to exaggerate, to impress, to make things sound greater than they are. But in the end, reality always speaks louder than words. So, before we boast, before we build castles out of words, let's ask ourselves, can I stand by what I say? Because, just like the ox, the truth will always reveal itself. Now, let me ask you, do your words match your actions? Or are you feeding a story bigger than it really is? If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more timeless wisdom and inspiring stories.